you for our next discussion as well. Now, Ukrainian military today has said that it had struck oil facilities inside Russia, including a major refinery as well as a military airfield, 4 drones and electronics factory. In a statement on Telegram, Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces, which specializes in drone warfare, said that they hit the oil refinery in Riyadh Zam, about 180 kilometers southeast of Moscow, causing a fire on its premises. The USF also said that the oil storage facility in the Voronezh region was hit. THH USF, however, did not specify how the facilities were hit. Russia has not yet commented on these attacks on its infrastructure sites. In addition, Ukraine's intelligence agency, SBU, said that its drones also hit a Russian military airfield, which has been used to launch waves of long-range drones at targets in Ukraine. The SBU said that it also hit a factory that it said supplies Russia's military-industrial complex with electronics. The Russia-Ukraine war continues to rage on, even after 3.5 years with no ceasefire in sight. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Ross Feingold. Ross, thank you for staying with us. Now the attacks are continuing and they are becoming heavier or intensifying. Given this electronics factory and also given these news coming in, does this indicate a shift in Ukraine's strategy? And how do these strikes affect the resilience of Russia's war efforts and its ability to sustain the operations?
It certainly indicates that the Ukrainian domestic capability to manufacture drones that could fly a long distance and can engage in attacks, is constantly improving. Look, we all know that there's been this long-time struggle from the start of the war when aid from the United States and European countries began to flow into Ukraine, specifically military aid, that the US and the Europeans wanted to really put limits on the ability of Ukraine to attack within Russia using weapons supplied by Europe or the US. There's been some changes in those policies over the past 3 years, but those changes were very slow in coming. At the same time, Ukraine has, again, they've developed their domestic manufacturing capability, specifically with drones, and they're going to use that. So they're basically telling the US and Europe, if you're going to put restrictions on how we could use the weapons that you donate to us, we're still going to develop our own capabilities. What is also worth noting here, though, is Ukraine could hit as many targets as it can within Russia, as many military-related or energy-related targets, but that doesn't change what's going on the ground in eastern Ukraine. Russia is not going to say, okay, we need to have a ceasefire because Ukraine hit an oil facility or a drone manufacturing facility within Russia. So yes, this does some damage to Russia. It shows flaws in Russia's air defense capabilities. It's hugely embarrassing for Russia, but ultimately these kinds of Ukrainian attacks do damage, but they don't change what's going on the ground in eastern Ukraine.
And Ross, now building on your answer, how are both sides adapting to this new technological edge in battlefields?
That's a really interesting question, and it shows or it goes to a challenge for both sides, both Ukraine and Russia. They need to invest constantly in their drone manufacturing capability. That requires a lot of cash. It requires talented engineers. It requires components which they have to source, often from outside of Ukraine or Russia. Russia, being under international sanctions, has faced a lot of challenges. They get some components from China, some they acquire illegally for people who are willing to violate US or European sanctions. But the same challenges or similar challenges also exist for Ukraine. Again, it requires a lot of personnel, talented personnel, and it requires a lot of money. So both sides are facing that challenge, and that's just part of their overall warfare planning. It would be difficult to forecast who's going to win the battle of the drones. The one thing that we do know is both sides have constantly improved their drone capabilities.
Thank you very much, Ross Feingold, for joining